Back and bigger than ever, it's the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, welcome back. It is another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast, brought to you by Soonerscoop.com, where we've got lots of things to talk about. The NFL Draft coming up over the weekend, starting tomorrow. It is Wednesday. We are podcasting mid-afternoon among the rainy day that is Oklahoma right now, and we're just coming off of a spring game, and let's welcome in the entire crew. Just got the worst DM. I guess we could start here. I just got a DM from Joe Castiglione. I'm not afraid to say this.
Humble brag.
Well, it's like right as my Twitter is set up. Damn it.
What happened?
I had to read this. I just heard that DirecTV ended up carrying the game after all. Did you hear that? Crazy.
Is that like a side swipe? Like, what is that?
No, I mean, it's like he just heard. Like,
right.
I didn't want to bother him anymore after it was over. Like,
follow that up with, Oklahoma won the spring game, too.
Did you know you played the spring game?
Congrats on the win.
Did you know that Caleb Williams is good at quarterback? No. That is just so bizarre to get that text like 2 days later.
Do you think that was like one of those text messages that he tried to send on Saturday and closed out the conversation and it never like went through, and he just woke up today and was like, oh yeah, I forgot to send that.
Deliver.
Yeah.
Yeah, he opened it up and it was like, not sent. Oh shit, okay, resend again.
I mean, that ruined
the greens.
My Friday. Like Friday night, 8:30 is when that came down. And it just like it was 4 hours of nonstop talking to people from Bally Sports, talking to OU, trying to figure out what the hell was going on and who was going to be able to see this thing. And I started fighting with the YouTube people. That sounded weird. The YouTube TV people, because they're like, it's on my program guide. I'm going to see it. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's DirecTV saying it's on their program guide too. And everyone's telling me it's not going to air. And so thank God OU came out and said, by the way, DirecTV is not going to show this. Like, not because of me, because Bally Sports was being told that by DirecTV, and then they were telling OU. And then the game starts, and after all this shit show that I basically went to bed at 4 a.m. the night before the game, the red-white game, I'm just sitting there waiting, and my friends that are on YouTube TV are like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch it. Like, I can't wait to see. And so then Curtis Fitzpatrick texted me. He's like, he had DirecTV, and he was pissed off. But his brother works for Bally Sports, so he knew something was going down too. And then all of a sudden, it's on DirecTV, just like nothing ever happened. And then the YouTube TV people can watch it, like no problem. And I was just like, God, I just wasted an entire night on this.
Yeah.
Carrie,
you did.
Yep.
I think I speak for the other three parties here. There is literally no telling what is going to truly grab your attention. This grabbed you for 12 hours. You were very engaged in this conversation, and I get it. Why? But you were so into it.
And I hate Sinclair so much because everyone that has satellite like either has it or loses it, or they're in a carriage dispute about it. It's a disaster of a television network.
I'll be completely honest. My care level on a scale of 1 to 10. -5, probably.
That's because you're like me, and you probably pay $300 for Cox.
I 100% do.
Because you
I 100%
care enough to not lose the shit that you care about, and you're willing to pay whatever you have to pay. But
we have to have it.
Most people in the world are just like, how do I get TV for $60?
Sure,
that's the TV that I want.
There's a lot more people, I think, than I realize that have either cut the cord or gone to YouTube TV or whatever. I have to have my sports channels.
And I've been, you guys will admit, I have been engrossed in this ever since Fox Sports sold off the regional sports networks.
It was one of those things that I remember talking about, and I remember like seeing that, Fox Sports regional places are going to be gone. And then,
or they're bought up by somebody.
And then all of a sudden, I turn on a Thunder game, and it's Bally Sports. I was like, when did this happen? It just happened overnight.
Sinclair rebranded.
It literally happened overnight.
You couldn't have them the Fox Sports regional sports network when you're not Fox Sports.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I wondered when it was going to happen. So, I mean, literally, I feel like part of my job, when I can perform a public service for people, I need to do that. And I'm passionate about that kind of stuff. So, I was passionate about the television thing, and I always have been partly because OU is tied to this financially. The pay-per-view, I know everybody hates the pay-per-view game, but you guys know I deal with that every year. And that's where the Pours came in. And that is just something that I get wrapped up in, and I don't mind it. I know you guys aren't interested in it, but lots of people are.
They're not interested in it until they turn on the television and can't see the game.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
that's the only time
that age 30 minutes beforehand.
Well, then it's a shit show that you can't control.
And you're right, Bob. Just be prepared. That Western Carolina game sounds like a good option because they're not going to put the Nebraska game, obviously, and the Tulane game's already on.
I don't even know if Bally Sports can pull off pay-per-view at this point.
I don't think that they can.
But we'll welcome your sponsorship, Bally Sports, just whenever you want to give us a call.
They need to be sponsoring us for me helping you. Helping the world not to burn.
Well, as it turns out, everybody got to see the game. So that's good.
I'd like just a swag bag, if you will. I mean,
I don't know. I don't really like the logo to begin with. I don't know if I'd wear anything with it.
It's been so long since we've been out, though, and been anywhere that gives us swag. Usually you get some at the Big 12 Media Day.
I saw that,
bowl games.
Basketball teams are giving visiting reporters swag because I saw Steve McGahee the last 2 nights has gotten stuff from NBA arenas.
Like the Celtics gave him swag?
Yeah, well, it was like a bobblehead or something. Kind of cool. I don't know why. Seems like during a time when everybo's losing money. I don't know why. Jaylen Brown maybe or Jason Tatum. I can't remember. It was one of them. Or it might have been Kemba Walker. I can't remember. That's a bad team anyways.
Well, they didn't play Tatum or Walker last night.
Well,
but you still should lose to the Thunder.
They should get they should bring back a Celtics championship banner for the performance they put on last night.
They almost won it. The Thunder almost choked it off last night.
I had already talked myself into thinking it's going to be okay. They're going to win this game, break the streak, which was also kind of funny that I didn't even realize this, but it was brought up to me this morning that at no point during the losing streak did they say losing streak on a broadcast. They never said how many games
they're very
the Thunder
sensitive
had lost.
About it.
Wait, what?
When the Thunder guys come on our show, they're very nervous when I ask them questions because I'll ask them about how the
reality,
yes,
what's happening around them.
Yes, they don't like that.
The bullshit that has been displayed.
By the way, I would like
this team that can't stop losing. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, and they're like, well, it's a growth period. It's a growth period.
By the way, I give it up to Jeff Goodman. Just a little sidebar here. He has not banned me like Reddit college football banned Eddie.
For what?
Well, he tweeted out last night, Oklahoma City just snapped a 14-game losing streak to the Boston Celtics. No Tatum, no Kemba. It shouldn't matter, though. OKC was without Shea, and the Thunder absolutely stink. And I just quote tweeted him and said, "Fuck you, Jeff. You don't get to ride in the tank parade."
Probably hasn't. You think he saw it?
I don't know. He hadn't blocked me yet, though. A lot of people liked it, so. Anyway, spring game, we had one. It was televised. Josh, we'll start with you. I don't know if you've Monday morning idioted this thing or not, or if you plan to.
No, excuse me. Sorry, I haven't. Yeah, that was a good one. Right, perfect timing.
Somebody had whiskey last night.
I thought about it, and then I was like, I don't want to spend 4 or 5 hours on 7 or 8 snaps for each guy I really wanted to watch, and then spend half my time breaking down Todd Hudson's work.
There's a reason Eddie and I didn't do a pod after the scrimmage.
I started to ask. I was like, I bet you they're in the exact same boat. Because I almost did a report card. I thought about it. And I was watching it on my computer. I had to go through the Sooner Sports TV thing because I had the problem you guys were talking about. So I go through all that, and I was like, man, I just don't feel like I have enough information. Like, this is going to be so half-assed. I didn't want to do it and kind of sully the good name of the report card.
Yeah, it was just kind of one of those things that it was great to see. It was great to have the game out there. It was great to see a guy like a Kendall Dennis or a Clayton Smith or whoever, Caleb Williams, Mario Williams, all of those guys. It was great to see them, but to say that you walked away and you just had these bold proclamations about anything that happened probably be a little much. And it kind of soured for me on the third series of the game when you look up and, like, I legitimately, as I'm logging the video that we were able to shoot, which it was good to be back down there, but I had no idea that Marcellus Crutchfield was on the OU football team. I had no idea. Like, I had to
that's Gerald McCoy's kid.
I had no idea. And I just found that out.
That just slipped under your radar?
Yeah, I had no idea.
He was there last year.
I had no idea.
You don't remember going like, wait a minute, Gerald McCoy has a kid?
I remember him coming, but I didn't remember his
you?
pause. I didn't remember that it was GK's kid, though.
I mean, I don't remember the conception, but, I knew it was GK's kid.
I had no idea. And
Gerald McCoy, by the way, the invitation is out to join the Sooner Scoop family when you do decide to retire.
Absolutely.
I would listen to that podcast.
I think it'd be pretty good. But I just, like, that was just a name that, like, on the third series of the game, I wasn't expecting to be catching footballs.
Well, I mean, not only that, but then you had Jackson Sumlin catching all kinds of...
He's the star of the game.
I mean...
Jaden Knowles and Sumlin, yep.
It was your typical... I don't think any of us in the round table before had brought up... Maybe we brought up Todd Hudson. Maybe somebody brought him up.
I think it was just a thing of, like, A, I don't know who's going to be out there, and then B, like, who is going to be making plays?
I mean, I'll say this. For as many people that were missing, it was actually a pretty entertaining scrimmage to watch.
No, it was. It was.
There wasn't a big lull. You got to see enough Caleb Williams to where you were like, okay, that's pretty impressive to watch. And then getting to see Mario Williams for the first time, the catch that Jaden Hazelwood made.
The way that they put the game together worked out. It ended up working out very well, just between, like, OU or the defense and the offense.
By the way, DJ Graham or Mario Williams, who really caught that ball?
DJ Graham, 100%.
Yeah,
100%. Like, I watched it live, and I go, that's an interception. And then they kind of stopped for a second. I go, oh, they're just, like, my brain just automatically went, they're going to go review it and then give it to Jaden or DJ Graham.
And
obviously, they're like, just continue playing.
Yeah.
So, really, when we start the quarterback controversy, it needs to be said that Spencer Rattler threw an interception in the spring game.
He's in real
trouble.
trouble.
That's almost half his yards.
Well, I took him off my big board.
Are you ready to start a quarterback controversy?
I took him off the 2022 big board after the guy that tweeted this earlier this week.
I think
the draft consultant that is looking for clout.
We are starting. There's a quarterback battle brewing in Norman. This is a huge deal. We need to follow this really closely because I just don't know who's going to start week one.
Lincoln has to. He has to say it before July 4th. That's my cutoff date. I want him to come out and say, "I can't wait for the competition."
Like what's really interesting is this was probably between Kyler and Kendall and Jalen and freshman Spencer. This might be the closest two quarterbacks legitimately heading into a season.
We need to clip just that, and we'll put it out on social media.
Can you do one of the quote graphics for us, Carrie? Like we'll
yes.
put that out there.
Yeah, just the graphic where nobody knows context.
Yep.
That's perfect. Shit, somebody, an OU aggregator site will probably just put it out there for us.
But there's never been less of a chance that the backup wins a job. Like
that's probably fair.
I mean, Kyler, there's no way he was losing to Austin.
We're not including that part.
And with that said, I mean, I think anybody that watched the game, like, oh shit, Caleb Williams is pretty goddamn good.
Caleb Williams just has
that flair to him.
I mean, like, let's face it, the thing that we really appreciate about Spencer Rattler is he's just a damn accurate thrower of the football. Now, He can run around a little bit, but I'm telling you, Caleb Williams is not getting knocked out of a game against Kansas trying to get it into the end zone. Like, he's got a little burst that Spencer
he probably
doesn't
runs
have.
the kid over. I mean, Caleb Williams is a massive kid.
He's a big kid.
He's not even a kid. He's a man.
It just impresses me how much
Outside
it
of
goes
the fingernail
forgotten
polish.
that his big early impact was with his feet.
Sure.
Like, that's what
Yeah.
he was doing
He
there.
was the leading
And,
rusher, Josh.
yeah, and like it just, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I get it. They're trying to get him into a rhythm, trying to get him a little confidence. Like, all that makes absolute sense. But everybody's like, well, he was so much better. I'm like, guys, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, he made some throws too. It wasn't just that. I am very high on his ability and what he could possibly be. But at the same time, I don't know how you're not watching the two offenses and thinking these are two very different things, to forget that defense that Rattler's going against knows exactly what he is, exactly what he's about, knows the calls. Like, they're running the most vanilla version of themselves they could possibly be, while Caleb Williams is the wild card. Like, I mean, he's Charlie Murphy. He just showed up and started doing crazy stuff that they were not in any way prepared for.
There were two plays that I'll give him a shout out because he pointed it out to me. He sent the video to me, but Keegan Renault sent me the video of, and Brian Meade and Caleb Kelly literally read the play as he's dropping back. It's like, well, yeah, these guys have both seen it for 6 years. They know exactly what's coming.
I mean, I think, look, Spencer was literally out there trying to make splash plays, I thought. And Caleb was, he was kind of taking what they get. Like, Ben Harris was 6 for 6, the kid from Carl Albert, threw a bunch of check down stuff, and he looked good, but, I mean, he was throwing little outlets out of the backfield to the running back.
I mean, I thought for that matter, the one thing that I'd walked away, why the hell was Micah Bowen in Norman? He couldn't go start somewhere?
He's fast as shit.
I thought he looked pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Look good.
The reviews I got from Penn State when that came in was like, oh, yeah, they didn't, and you're like, Penn State's quarterback play has not been anywhere near Oklahoma's for the last decade, and they're kind of shooting him down. And I'm watching him, and I think I tweeted, I was like, he's not doing anything crazy with his arm. Like, it's pretty short, kind of, 3-step and go throws. But still, he was on time, he was on target, and then you start throwing it, running the ball. I agree completely. I mean, when's the last time OU had a third-string quarterback that, you'd have to change some things if it got that bad, but you could win with him in a lot of ways.
Look, all those little wrinkles that Lincoln was upset he lost with Chandler Morris departing, he's got all that back and more with Micah Bowens if he wants it.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, he's definitely a better runner. There's no doubt about that.
By the way, I will say this, and it's not so much a knock against any of the quarterbacks. I mean, I thought, they all had some issues finding guys down the field, but that's because the secondary guys were sticking to people like glue.
Yeah, I think we buried the lead because the one thing that you walked away from thinking from the spring game, and we talked about the offense, but it was the defense, I think, for me. That's a group that, even without the guys that they didn't have on Saturday, they physically just look like a better defense and obviously played better.
I talked to someone, won't say the name.
They got some dudes physically.
A former recent Division I coach that may have been in attendance that said...
Chad Morris?
I won't say. Stop winking. Said that's the closest that he's been to another team that looks like Alabama.
It's like it's the highest compliment you can get.
It really is.
No, especially when you look at what they were throwing out there on the defensive line and seeing guys like a Nathan Rollins-Kabonga make a tackle for a loss, seeing Marcus Hicks be able to get out there and play a little bit. And this is all considering that they were without, arguably maybe the guy I was most intrigued to see in Jalen Redmond, who unfortunately had a family issue and couldn't be there on Saturday. Kind of went under the radar, didn't it?
Look, it did. Look at that defensive line, though. LaRon Stokes and Corey Roberson. 2 years ago, Stokes is, newcomer of the year in the Big 12, and Corey Roberson played considerable amounts last year. they were running like third and fourth team on Saturday.
Yeah.
Like it's
clear.
unbelievable what they've put together.
They keep coming.
It's clear that Jordan Kelly, in their eyes, has really made a jump.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy
agree.
I remember after we talked to Brian Odom, what was that, 2.5 weeks ago during spring? And I remember we talked about it here on the U40, just as far as like, okay, where's Caleb Kelly going to be fitting into this thing? I thought he looked pretty damn good on Saturday. It was a limited amount of snaps, but, I mean, if you can get Caleb Kelly from 2 years ago back, or
and
what we thought was going to be,
what he's doing.
Sure.
I mean, it's just like that play he made where he jumped up, the ball hit him right in the chest. He just happened to be 3 feet away from the quarterback throwing at full speed. There was no way he was going to catch that. But no, I mean, my big concern right now is Perion Winfrey making it through the offseason after seeing that his thigh pads were Michael Myers.
He's crazy eyes.
And Jason.
He's crazy eyes. I think that's what I'm going to
Jason
refer to him
Voorhees.
as. That was badass too.
Helmet as
It's a
he's
great
walking
catch.
off the field.
I've never seen guys grab their helmets like it was Perion and Justin Harrington.
Yeah, Harrington.
Yeah.
Never seen guys grab helmets like that on the top of them.
People do point out that they have holes in them, though.
But I think that they were holding it like palming a basketball.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, they were. That's what the picture looked like, yeah.
I don't think they had their hands in the holes though, for like extra support. I think they were just palming them. It's insane. Kind of goes to what we were just talking about, though. It's like they have guys on the defensive side of the football finally that look like they should be playing at Oklahoma. What you would expect. I didn't expect a guy like a Kendall Dennis to be making plays out there on Saturday.
Well, and here's the thing. Think how many people were out. Like,
Sure.
that was totally, kind of flew under the radar a little bit. There were so many guys. I mean, we knew, like, Pat Fields wasn't going to play, but you didn't have Woody Washington, which he hadn't done much at all in the spring. You didn't have Theo Weiss out there on offense.
Who's on a scooter, by the way. He was actually in a hard cast on his right foot. But I think he's supposed to get out of that here pretty soon, was the word.
That'll be good. But, I mean, there were a lot of guys on defense that were out.
The secondary thing's just
Jeremiah
fascinating.
Cradell was out.
You could throw any 5 guys out there or 4 guys out there, and I'd say, yeah, I could see that happening. And I feel like that's kind of what Lincoln Riley and Alex Grinch said after the game.
The guy I came away with I knew I liked him last year, but I think he's made a huge jump from what we saw was DJ Graham.
Dude.
Yeah.
That guy looks like a dude. I mean, I was talking to somebody and there was legitimate, like, he could be first day pick kind of guy. Like they think, and he missed a big chunk of spring. So this isn't a guy that's been there the whole time. Like, he's still getting his feet under him, and I thought he looked tremendous.
I have video of him just warming up before the game, and he's just throwing the ball around. I did not realize he's so big up top. Like, he is a jacked guy, and he's not the height that you would think when you're talking about the guys in the secondary right now in that video that I put out. But like, he makes up for it physically, and I think you saw that when he basically killed Major Melson on the sidelines.
Oh.
Which, by the way, Major Melson, I knew about that, and that's an awesome name. That's a great name.
Chris Melson's son.
Yep.
God damn. I need to catch up on my bios. I didn't know that.
You know, Josh, who to me...
When you said you knew that, I just assumed that's what you meant.
No, I didn't know that.
He meant he knew the kids on the team. Didn't
Do
know.
you know who Chris Melson is, though?
Did he play at OU?
Yes.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
Switzer.
Yeah. I mean, I'm familiar with the name.
He was like 86, 89,
Yeah, he
somewhere
was
in that ballpark.
late Switzer.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's also the head coach at Mansfield Legacy in the Dallas area. Yeah.
That's why. Okay.
He coached Abby Ara.
I just like how Bob goes, I go, he's Chris Melson's son, and Bob goes, yeah. And then Eddie's look on his face was like, who the f*** is Chris Melson?
Well, I knew that Chris Melson played at OU, but I knew that was familiar for other reasons, and him being the head coach makes sense.
Gotcha.
I feel like I've seen that on Twitter before.
I'm pretty sure Chris Melson would not appreciate my language there, so I apologize, Chris.
Yeah, Chris has got Bible scripture kind of each morning, if I remember right.
I'm going to confession today. I'll add you in, Carrie.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I need that. I need that from
just a little late ad
from Mother Mary. Gosh dang it. I can't see now. I'm being careful. I know what I was going to say. Josh, just through your television, I don't know if you could see it or not, but Bob, Eddie, you chime in here. Is it me or...
I think I know where you're going.
Does it look like Jamal Morris is turning into a freak before our eyes? Like, he's so big.
He's...
all of a sudden, upper body. I hope he's doing roids.
That'd be kind of cool.
Massive.
He made a lot more plays. He's one of those guys that kind of got forgotten about last year when he made that position change.
And he started because there were so many linebackers that were out.
Well, it takes a while to make that position change. And then you try to make it during the era of COVID, and it's going to make it even harder to really get a grasp on what you're being asked to do. I mean, he made some plays on special teams, and we'll see. Does that give them like 6 legitimate inside backers? I mean, that would be incredible.
Is it more of a situation, too, that like maybe he's made a jump in that? I don't know what I'm trying to say here. It's like
he has tackles.
He hasn't made the jump that you would think. He hasn't made the jump to be a contributor, but he's made the jump enough to make you think there's really nice competition in that group.
Well, I mean, he was non-existent. I mean, I was just waiting for him to transfer.
That's fair.
Like, you never heard anything about him either. It was like there was never any praise or any, hey, Jamal Morris is really starting to come along.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you look out there Saturday, he's the first guy on the field. And for a second, I thought it was Kenneth Murray. He was so big.
I think somebody else
took a while to embrace that position, too, when you think you're coming in as a safety.
Sure.
And that's what you think you're going to do. And then you don't have a spring last year to get accustomed to being an inside backer. But now it's like, this is your position. If you're going to be on this team, this is where you are. And that sounds like a guy that's bought into this is what he's being asked to do now.
It always makes me so nervous, too, looking at a guy like Justin Harrington when he's running out there with the knee brace on. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think it's just like a...
Like you're expecting a knee crumple to happen?
Yes. He looked good, though. I mean, he didn't look out of place. I think we're obviously didn't learn a whole bunch with him, lining up against whoever, but...
Devin Staten didn't do it for you?
I love Devin Staten, but I think he's going to see a little bit better competition at some point.
I will say, it's really weird when, like, for instance, a player leaves and another player takes his number. Like, when I saw 20 out there and it wasn't Robert Barnes...
Yes.
And I was just like,
yes.
what's going on? It's Clayton Smith? Is that who that is? Like, it was just weird.
Clayton Smith.
Well, and their body types aren't that different.
No,
it is the other part that made it weird and hard. But never mind. I had something great to contribute, and it's now gone.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, damn it.
What did you think about the offensive line play on Saturday, Josh?
Based on how low I had gotten my expectations, I didn't think it was bad. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not ready for opening night or anything. It's nowhere near there. But I thought you got Marquise Hayes finally is starting to look like the guy that I thought he was going to be out of high school. Like, I mean, you guys remember, I was a huge Hayes guy. And he's shown flashes of that, but you've heard he's had a really good spring. It sounds, he looked good on Saturday. You don't know what to make of Chris Murray at right guard because of Tyrese Robinson. I mean, is that real or is that just, anybody to fill in for Tyrese? Because I've heard he had a good spring as well. So I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was perfect. You can tell there's a lot. I mean, anytime there was somebody having to pull or there was a more timing-related issue, you saw problems. I mean, it just wasn't clean. It wasn't very pretty. And you would just – and that's stuff that just snaps. It's just repetition that they can get to, but it's just not there yet. But as far as, like, they can handle the guy in front of them, they're fine. They can do that. They've got plenty of talent. I thought Andrew Raym looked like I think we can go ahead and say I think that's his job. I bet you money he ends up winning that job.
That's kind of what I was thinking. And so does that mean for like a Chris Murray, Tyrese Robinson, does it matter what happens at tackle in case they have to move Robinson out to tackle, which would be bad news, I guess.
Josh,
but
what did
you're
you
also
think
getting
of,
Murray in.
What did you think of him playing Bray Walker out at tackle, basically the entire day?
It tells, honestly, more than anything, it tells me where Bray Walker is in the plans. Bray Walker is, we don't know where you can go. I mean, we tried you at guard. You didn't take the job like we kind of hoped you would. It just feels like, he's depth at this point.
See, I was getting ready to say that I've given up on Bray Walker, so that probably means he's going to compete for an Outland trophy at some point.
Yeah, I mean, and Bray's a talented guy. I just, for whatever reason, it doesn't seem like he can find a home. Like, I don't know what it is, but I mean, if he wasn't going to take the job from Tyrese Robinson last year, when is that ever going to happen? At some point, you just kind of are who you are,
and
you are what you're putting on tape.
You almost get the feeling that it was Andrew Rame that was the one, if anybody was going to take his job, it was going to be him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, did anybody do Tyrese Robinson a better solid last year than Bill Bedenbaugh putting Rame behind Hayes instead of Robinson? I mean, I think it was just a matter of, because we all know Bill doesn't like to do that mid-season. He's not going to move. He wants you to be at a place you've worked and you're familiar, and especially when it comes on which side of the ball you're lining up. Tyrese Robinson, he'll slide him to right tackle. I bet you it never once would cross his mind to move him to left tackle because it's just different, and that's fine. I get it. But that's not really the way he operates. So with Rame being a freshman, not having a spring, I just think him at right guard was just never going to be permitted, and that probably kept Robinson in the starting lineup longer than he should have been.
It's fascinating, too, because then you start getting into the depth situation, and you got to keep in mind that Anton Harrison and Stacey Wilkins didn't play on Saturday. It sounds like Marcus Alexander's had a decent spring. He's been mentioned a couple times. Even Daryl Simpson got into the game.
It's hard to figure out exactly who is down the depth chart.
I thought Stacey Wilkins looked great physically. That means nothing in the grand scheme of things, but you can tell like his body has changed from the moment he got in, which probably was pretty obvious.
You get a little quote tweet out of him.
That's all I was looking for.
Just a little clout.
Yeah, I'm just looking for. I'm gonna start asking questions that I know will just get retweeted into oblivion about local guys.
Maybe everyone will tell you happy birthday someday.
That's what I'm aiming for. We'll have to wait until March of next year, though.
That's the pinnacle. My
get a son. What?
Nothing.
Nothing. No, just I'm sure that's connected to nothing. But no, Stacey, like we talked about last week. I mean, it's kind of like what I was just saying about Walker. I mean, and Stacey's younger, so I mean, it's not quite the same. But at some point, man, you got to go. Something's got to give. Something's got to happen.
There's a lot of guys in the program right now that are kind of on that verge of, okay, you've been here a couple years. We're not going to put the bust label on you, but you got to start contributing. You got to start playing. And it kind of goes in line with what I think a lot of people think about Jaden Hazelwood right now.
I think
it's obvious he has a lot of talent.
Yeah.
Just look at the one-handed catch. But then you look up and it's like, huh?
But I think with both of those guys, with Stacey and Jaden, in different ways, but I think it's all a mental thing. I mean, I think with Wilkins...
Build some confidence. Maybe they just haven't been on the field to build any confidence.
I think with Wilkins, it's more maturity than it is, just confidence. And I think you would hope that maturity is starting to happen there after sitting out a year and being away from the game. I think Jaden's just confidence, coming back from that knee and
just letting it go,
having a play like he had. I guarantee Lincoln Riley would have probably gone to the refs and said, even if it was a slight bobble or something, he's like, you're giving him that catch. He needs that catch.
They had like a little buzzer on the side of the hip of the referee.
Yeah. Eaton's reaction was the best part of that play.
He's another guy in the secondary that certainly looks the part.
Key Lawrence, too.
Yeah, Key Lawrence looks really good.
Guys, it's so weird. Like, we can just sit here on the defensive side of the ball and be like, that guy's interesting. That guy's interesting. That guy looks like a dude. And it's just night and day from where it was just 2 years ago. It's amazing how quickly they've overturned that roster.
It's not the most popular opinion, but, I mean, Just got to. It continues to be emphasized even more how wrong I was that they didn't need to make some type of, systematic change on the defensive side of the football, maybe circa 2017 or prior.
Pick at that, Scab.
I have to, though, because it's night and day difference.
It is.
Anybody that looks out there realizes that, and I think that, I thought it was pretty funny that there was a national college football guy that was like making this bold proclamation earlier in the week that, you can compete for a national title. It's like, I don't know necessarily anybody around here that would disagree with that. That's not really, you're not stepping out onto some ledge. That's just basic knowledge.
Look at that 2017 team with one of the worst major college defenses you've ever seen. They fought Georgia tooth and nail, and Georgia went and was up huge at halftime on Alabama, who ended up winning the national title in overtime. But people act like there was this huge mile. Oklahoma just had to be respectable defensively. They don't even have to be as good as I think they're going to be this year. They just needed to be a little bit better than they were. Now, that 2017 offense was historically talented. So, that's part of it, too. But you're getting it to where the offense and defense are kind of meeting in the middle, where the O isn't what it used or what it was that year, but the defense has just grown by leaps and bounds.
Knowing what we know now, or I guess what we think we know going into the season, what is realistic? Is this dare I say, is it a top 5 type defense? Top 10 realistic?
Yeah, it depends on what you're talking about. Are you talking stats, or are you talking about, if there was 5 defenses in college football that you needed to go win a game, I'd choose one of those 5.
Either or for this purpose.
I
could probably get there to 10.
Well, they were 10 for most of the year last year.
Yeah. Total offense, people are always like, well, is OU's offense or defense going to be better in terms of total yardage than the offense? No. It's still the Big 12. There's a lot of shitty defenses in the Big 12. OU's going to put up a lot of yardage. There's a lot of good offense in the Big 12. OU's going to give up some yards that they wouldn't if they were in some other leagues.
Yeah, but I'm not so sure that the quarterback thing has been solved in the Big 12 conference. Spencer Sanders is still a major question mark. I'm not going to crown Casey Thompson as...
It still sounds like Hudson Card's going to be the guy.
I know.
Yeah, I think that's the best.
I think you'll have a back and forth. Throughout even when the season starts. But Brock Purdy is just an okay quarterback. I'm on an island here, but
no, I'm with you.
He makes so many weird plays compared, for a guy that we know what great quarterback play looks like.
Brock Purdy's one of those guys that you'll sit there and talk shit about him, and then the next week he goes out and lights the world on fire, and then you're like, okay, well maybe I'll come around to this idea, and then he goes back out and throws a couple picks.
He's the polar get away with the couple plays that he messes up
because his defense,
like he did against Oklahoma last year,
right? The first time, and then not the second time.
Absolutely, he is the opposite to me of and I'm gonna blank on the kid at TCU, the
Max Duggan.
Max Duggan,
yes, Duggan. Because Duggan, he shows you this stuff that I'm like, I want to believe in you. I want to think you're as good as you show yourself to be once every month. And then you're terrible the other 3 weeks. As to where Purdy is pretty solid 3 times out of 4, and then that 4th time you're like, oh God, don't do less of that. Don't do that thing anymore. So Duggan kind of shows you the elite flashes, but there's no consistency. While Purdy is pretty consistent, but there's nothing elite about what he does.
Yeah, and then you don't have anybody at Kansas State that just jumps out at the page.
Don't do this.
Could it be?
That's locker room shit.
Could it be? Oh, yeah. I don't play for OU, so I don't care. Could it be that West Virginia has the most underrated offense in the conference? Which we have a bad idea of because OU got that game canceled last year.
I think Neil Brown's a really good football coach.
I was going to say, is he the second best offensive mind in the league?
I'm not going to give it to Tech.
Sometimes I think because we're so close to it, we probably, I'm scared to say this, but discredit Gundy because I think he is pretty damn good.
Well, I think Casey Dunn has a lot to prove in Stillwater still. I mean, that was a historic
didn't go well
offense
last year.
It didn't going into next season, and they got blown. I mean, their offensive line was terrible, but at the same time, it didn't seem like they were able to do anything to kind of get around it.
Sure.
I should say, and we all knew that guys. I remember us taking all that heat early last year, like when we were kind of previewing the conference, and everybody was like, "Oh," and we said it. We were like, "This offensive line is the problem." It was known, and I feel like Oklahoma State didn't do anything to build in some. I don't know what you want to call it, but some workarounds, like some ways to mitigate that offensive line being a problem. And nowhere was that more clear than in Bedlam, when OU didn't do anything but just kick their ass up front. There was nothing complicated. They just were way, way better along the line.
You know what could be the wild card, and I don't know how anything has gone down there with their spring, but Baylor could be a threat. I don't know how many players they still have left, but that's a hell of a coaching staff down there.
I think the athletic department is just going to disappear into thin air with Kim Mulkey gone now.
That was so bizarre.
Well, we're going to miss her, apparently.
I mean, it reads like, well, if the men are going to be good, I'm leaving.
I know, and I feel like that should be the talking point. Nobody says. Can't say it out loud.
You know, there's people that think it, though. What about that softball game, by the way, last night between Baylor and Oklahoma? Did you see that shit?
Just another ass whooping.
Well, I mean, did you see the rundown?
The rundown?
Okay, so a girl gets in a rundown between third and home. The pitcher goes to the plate, and they've got her in the pickle, and she misses the tag, and she just runs past her and scores a run. And the pitcher turns around and just throws the ball right at the girl as she's sliding into home plate. Like,
the
just
Baylor
beans
girl
her.
did?
Yes.
Did not see that.
Yeah.
And the umpire didn't do anything. I think he was so
shocked,
taken aback, like that you would turn around and bean someone like that he's just like, okay.
I had no idea that happened.
It was so
That's
bizarre.
hilarious.
Go look up the OU softball account.
They were probably just mad that they got their ass kicked again.
Well, I mean, the pitcher was totally just frustrated that she missed the tag, and in frustration, she just turns around and beans the runner.
Beth Mowens call her ass out?
She needs to. I need to drop that. We need to drop that to Holly Rowe and get her to call him out on Sirius or something.
She does just throw it right at her.
Yeah,
It's so bizarre. I've never seen that before. It's like somebody's like they were playing wiffle ball rules.
Did she think that the catcher was standing there?
No, she knew. She was just mad that she got past her and she just plunked her.
That's unbelievable.
I had to watch it like 5 times before I realized.
I mean, it's kind of
she
shocking.
really did throw it at the runner.
I kind of respect
I am
that.
looking for it. I'm
He
interested.
kind of threw it at her head too.
Should have got up and beat her ass. Started a fight.
They were so
They
shocked.
already did.
That's true.
Nothing at the time.
She just got like there was a player right there that watched it all happen, but they just ran back to the dugout. I think they were like, "Did that just happen?"
That's unbelievable. I can't believe that happened.
So anyway, I just look, we got a long ways to go. I just think that this defense could be extremely dominant because I don't know that we're back to the age of the great quarterbacks across the league in the Big 12.
Oh, I don't think it's that. Like I said, I think there's a lot of good offensive minds in the league that are going to – I mean, guys, you're right. Spencer Sanders is not a superstar. How many Power 5 schools would Spencer Sanders start for? I think a lot.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not saying that he's not a good – he doesn't have the potential to be a good quarterback. And
I had heard if they could get away with it, they would be okay with starting Illingworth.
Yeah. I think he's going to be the better of the two in the long haul. But Spencer Sanders just made sense last year because what we just talked about. They had no offensive line.
Yeah, you can't throw Illingworth back there.
Exactly. Illingworth is like Drew Bledsoe. He cannot move.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Brock Purdy. How many places did Brock Purdy not start in college football? 5, 6?
Oh, I mean, I'm not sitting here acting like that. These are not top flight quarterbacks. I'm just saying, from what we've seen around here, elite quarterbacks, like, and not even around here, but just like Joe Burrow. I mean, like, great quarterbacks around the country.
The ultimate hot take out there would be that, and I guess it's maybe not even ultimate, but two best quarterbacks might be in Norman.
You mean in the conference?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's unfair to say right now just because Caleb Williams has literally never taken a snap in a game, but I mean, there was a lot to like.
Well, I'll say
just
this.
Just the little throws that he had on like the outside was like, holy shit, this guy's arms.
Yeah. I'll say this, and this could kind of lead us into some draft talk, but Lincoln Riley, I mean, like, I almost wonder, like, if people look at Oklahoma and they say, no matter what, that quarterback, we're going to want him. Like, it's reached to that level. Like, no matter what OU's next quarterback is or, you know, what he's missing height-wise or speed, like, we want him as our quarterback because he played at Oklahoma, and every quarterback that plays at Oklahoma has started the last 3 years. Like, it's becoming a thing. And I'm wondering, like, if Justin Fields is getting dinged because Dwayne Haskins was such a failure as a quarterback, and if that's the way NFL personnel people think, then they're morons and they shouldn't have jobs. But I also think that that's the way that NFL GMs think.
I'm starting to think that, like, the entire NFL draft process, we've reached a point where it is the ultimate overthink. And I think it's probably just because it's out there in the media, but, like, these teams truly can't be overthinking it the way that I feel like some are. Like, the Bengals are a great example. Have I just completely missed the Penei Sewell stuff? Like,
I saw you guys talking about
how
this
are they going to pass on him and take Jamar Chase? That makes no sense to me. Joe Burrow literally almost got murdered on the field last year.
They're fine offensively. Well,
they lost
he didn't
AJ
finish
Green.
the season.
I just don't get it.
Guys, you can find a good wide receiver that can absolutely play next year and be ready to help you in the second, third, even fourth round if you're looking for the right kind of guys. You are not finding a plug-and-play offensive lineman in the second, third, and fourth round in all likelihood. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's exceptions to everything. But it's just like, I mean, I just don't understand the overthinking of it. I completely agree. They've done some work in free agency. I understand that they think they've addressed some of that. But, guys, you don't find elite offensive linemen in free agency because those teams would never let them go. It's just like a quarterback. Not just like a quarterback, but it's a lesser version. You get an elite guy up front, whether it's offensive line or defensive line, you don't really let them go for any price.
Somehow the Kansas City Chiefs have figured it out with Orlando Brown, but that's a kind of weird example.
That's coming off the Super Bowl where they were down two offensive linemen and realized how important it is. No, but, I mean, Joe Burrow, like, he actually gained my respect last year because he got his ass kicked every game, and he just kept coming back for more. But guess what? He finally broke it. Would he break his ankle?
Tore his ACL.
Tore
every
ACL.
ligament in his knee almost.
I mean, it was awful, I remember. So, I mean, eventually, like, are you going to Sam Bradford him out of a career? I mean, because if you don't have an offensive line,
not to mention you got a running back that can be an all-pro.
Survive. Like, Joe Burrow is better than any quarterback that's in the draft this year.
Correct.
I think a lot of teams could live with the backfield of Joe Mixon and Joe Burrow. They need people to block for them.
Yeah.
It's really not.
You're just trying to upset me with this Burrow shit.
But that's the thing about this is, like, yeah, if I'm a quarterback, I don't want to go to the Jets because I have nothing around me. I mean, they can't get out of their own way. I want to go to the 49ers. At least John Lynch has a pretty good history of drafting people.
Yeah,
and they got a team around me.
I guess the draft starts at 3. I mean, I don't think anybody knows what they're going to do. Where are you on Mac Jones, Josh?
As a number 3 pick that you traded up to get, it's insanity. It's just insanity.
Thank you.
I don't understand it. I don't get it. Now, do I think he's as terrible as everyone is trying to make him out to be? Like, oh, he's an absolute bust? No, I don't think that. I think in the right setup, he can be a really good player. He can be, I mean, 10 years ago, absolute waste of a pick. Just going to be bad. In the way offenses are run, the way they design things now, They will build things around him that suit him rather than trying to make him fit into what they want to do. They're going to find a scheme that he can run and he'll be okay. He's a smart guy. He is accurate. He doesn't have the big arm. He's not going to stretch the field, but you can do stuff with him. But number 3, that's crazy, especially to run Shanahan's scheme. Mac Jones is a statue back there. He's not scaring anybody on a bootleg. He's not doing any of that stuff. That's the part I don't understand, why it seems like Shanahan's so infatuated with him, because he doesn't fit it. It doesn't make sense anything about his game just does not connect with that offense, other than the fact that every accurate quarterback fits every offense that's ever been created.
I can't get the Justin Fields slander. All the guy did was go out and win.
With like broken rib or whatever.
Yeah, the guy's been a badass.
I can get it if you have Trey Lance over Justin Fields, but how Justin Fields slides out of like the top 8, the way quarterback is valued, I don't understand that.
See, I feel like Trey Lance is your perfect guy. I mean, it's like incomplete, but you can look at him and project like it makes you look smart, and then, if it doesn't work out, then it's a safe thing for you to say, Josh. It's like right down your alley.
You're 100%. There's something about this job that warps your brain to turn potential into reality. Like you're like, well, no, you just do this and this. It doesn't work like that. I mean, and I know that in my heart of hearts, but my brain is like, no, he's got all the physical stuff you need. Now, I will say he scares me because everybody's pointing to the Josh Allen thing. Well, Josh Allen got more accurate. That's not normal. That doesn't usually happen. You are who you are, especially when it comes to accuracy. You might clean up a little bit. Repetition gets you a little better, but you're not going to suddenly start throwing to the outside shoulder, on the 15-yard out if you've never done it before. That's not usually the way that works. When coverage gets better and tighter and your decisions are faster, that's not usually how that plays. But because it has for Josh Allen, everybody's like, well, why couldn't that be for Trey Lance? And I get it. That's like what I'm just saying. That's the tempting part for me, because if he can master that part, that dude's a monster. I mean, just an absolute animal. But that's a lot to ask. It's not as easy as people are trying to make it out to be.
Lamar Jackson looked awfully accurate coming out of college, and he's just not. When he went to the next level, he just isn't.
Yeah, I thought Lamar Jackson was a wide receiver. I'll own that till the day that's fine. There's part of me that's like, I'm still not sure I'm wrong about that. Like, if the goal is to win a Super Bowl, I don't know that Lamar Jackson can ever or will ever be that guy.
I'll be honest, I just don't like the incompleteness of Trey Lance. And I like that Justin Fields has shown us something not just good, but extraordinary against the best competition. I mean, that game versus Clemson was amazing.
The fact that Kirby Smart couldn't see his genius as a quarterback may be a vote of confidence for him. I don't know. Because when Kirby Smart does not buy into you as a quarterback, I think the odds go up for your future success.
I don't think that he didn't see. He just didn't want to screw with, the fact that they already had their guy.
Yeah, I know. Hey, your boy. I know. Got you.
I'm sorry. Why don't you just dig the knife a little deeper? Right?
I walked you into it. I could not stick the knife. I mean, I walked you into the alley. I got to shiv you when you're there.
No, he has not done jack shit. I mean, as soon as I put my stamp of approval on him, his career tanked. As soon as I said, could be the next Brady type draft pick, it just all went to shit.
And I'm just putting it together. Earlier you said there's no quarterback here on the level of Burrow. I'm not sure I believe that.
Not.
We know. I know you don't believe in the Golden Sun.
I don't even like Joe Burrow. I don't.
But this Fields thing adds into your long-standing God. Trevor Lawrence.
You're coming up with conspiracies that aren't even there now.
Carrie, grow your hair out. You can look just like Trevor. It's fine, man. Go that route. I don't know what the animosity
He's a lion
is.
Man. Unathletic head. I mean, that's where
Trevor
this
Lawrence
came
had
from.
a hell of a month, basically. Went to the Masters,
Look, he'll
got
probably
married.
be the best quarterback
Gonna be the
that's
number
ever
one
played
pick.
in the NFL. I mean, let's face it. He's destined.
He's
for
going to be a freaking dude, man.
How quick can the Jags turn that around? I'm kind of interested to see what Urban does, because the Jags
think
were
Urban
the most
loses
competitive 1-15 team in the entire history of the league last year.
I think Urban loses for 2 years and then throws himself down a set of stairs.
That wouldn't be the worst thing for humanity. Wouldn't be the best thing for football.
He'll just take a little magic marker and draw a big stain on his chest, like he's had some sort of heart issue. Like it's just going to be bad. He'll fake whatever he needs to.
Look at the cancer growing inside my body.
That's not how any of this works, Urban. That's not how this works at all.
Urban, we wouldn't need x-rays if that's how cancer worked, okay?
Now, I was listening to a pod earlier this week, and they were talking about kind of the decisions they've made and really just gutted that team of all high-priced, big-time kind of, second, third contract guys, except for on the offensive line. They've really kept a lot, like Cam Robinson, they franchise tagged him. They've kept several other guys around. And you're like, what young quarterback? Because every time we do this, there is the team that drafts number one, they're terrible because they're bad at quarterback and they're bad on the offensive line. Like that, if there's an easier, more straightforward recipe to being a bad football team, I don't know what it is. So you draft your quarterback and you can't protect him, or you get an offensive line and you've got no quarterback. So that's the world my Colts are living in right now. So I think there is something there to make that good. DJ Chark is a good wide receiver for the Jags, so he'll have somebody to throw to. You get somebody in the second round, kind of help him on offense, and then, maybe in a year or two start to build that defense. So there's some reason to think they have a plan here. They've got some things they're trying to work on, and they should have some draft picks after all the trades they've made. So, but I mean, yeah, like I said, I think you either see it by the end of this year starting to turn around, or the exact scenario we're talking about where, in 2 years, Urban Meyer needs to spend time with his family.
I still don't know what players play for Carolina and what players play for Jacksonville. It's the two most confusing teams to me in the NFL.
The only reason I feel like I know is because I guess kind of follow the Panthers just because of Matt Rule. Like I guess I'm more familiar, but yeah, I'm probably the same way.
It's such a weird blind spot for me.
Sometimes I feel like they're in the same state too. I don't know why. Jacksonville and Raleigh, North Carolina are obviously two different.
Yeah, it does feel like they're like a Georgia, Florida kind of thing.
I think it's also because they came into the league together, didn't they?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't...
Yeah, they were. They were part of that same expansion, like 92? Was it 95? I thought 95 was the year they went to the... No, that was 98.
That makes me feel all times old.
Josh
just the fact that it was 95 too, because it feels like it was, 10 years ago. When in reality,
Terry, go ahead.
More than that.
I feel like you're going to tell me which of the two that I rooted for at that point in time because of one player's involvement, and you're going to be right.
You are a big Jacksonville fan because of Tony Baselli.
Nailed it. Bam. Tony Baselli was the man.
I thought it was Mark Brunell.
He's a quarterback. Who gives a shit about the quarterbacks?
Fair. Oh, no, you said you were a big Ray Caruth guy, didn't you? That's what it was. You always really respected his parenting decisions.
Yeah, just seemed like one of those decent people, just a good man.
Right, yeah. Yikes.
Okay.
It is going to be interesting. Like, anybody watched? I haven't watched it yet, but I want to see Creed's appearance on the Jeff, what's his... Can't think of it. Schwartz.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob. I want to see that. I didn't get a chance to watch it last night because I was watching Thunder and Cubs, but I plan on watching it today. It's going to be interesting to see where Creed goes. And it's crazy to think that the first Oklahoman off the board is probably going to be a Tulsa guy, and Zaven Collins.
Yeah.
That'd be sweet if he landed at 16 to Arizona.
I mean, I'm really interested to see what happens in the running back situation behind. I mean, obviously Ramondre, but I wonder where Chuba Hubbard ends up going.
Interesting conversation that I had the other day with a buddy. At the beginning of last year, if you would have said I would take Ramondre over Chuba, I think that probably would have been the unpopular opinion. But now that we're sitting here the day before the draft, I feel like it's a no-brainer. Take Stevenson every day before Chuba.
I don't know, because I could see a team falling in love with his speed.
Sure.
And knowing, using him as a specialist or, the way that Kansas City might use him, and that being a value that Ramondre just doesn't have.
It's probably going to depend on the team. I mean,
I think I've stunned Josh with my analysis. No,
I'm enjoying it.
You just left. I could tell. I could hear you scrambling to come back to the microphone.
Do you know how? No. I am sitting right by it. I am so terrified of breathing into the mic. Like, I push it away every time I'm done talking. It's at least six inches to the right.
I wouldn't mind seeing Creed go to the Steelers too.
Who?
Creed,
For anybody or for OU purposes?
OU, Creed or Ronnie?
Creed.
Those Vegas odds had them one pick apart.
Yeah, was it
I
like
thought that
52
was-
and a half and 53 and a half?
It scares me a little bit because Creed feels like free money in that one. If he's there at 52, that's crazy to me. I don't understand that.
Well,
that's a 10-year NFL starter at center.
I think how it goes down too, and because there's been some speculation that the Steelers are interested in Creed, I think that their pick is 54 in the second round.
Can I give you a little? This will be a little preview that might mean something.
Oh no, are you going to run this? Is this going to get leaked out and the Steelers aren't going to take him?
No.
Yeah, they have the second round. Their pick is 55.
Well,
So-
who's he been meeting with, Dad?
Right. Come on.
Okay, stop it.
Stop. He's quitting football. He's going straight to the WWE.
So, you guys know that, I don't know if you know this or not, but tomorrow night Kings of Leon will be performing at the draft.
You broke that news 2 months ago on the podcast.
I was sent a picture of a game-worn Creed Humphrey jersey that will somehow
Make its way to the stage.
be a part of the festivities on Thursday night.
Awesome. Do we
Does
know
that mean that the NFL told Creed, hey, send your jersey because someone's told us that you're going to be their pick?
Oh, and
think
like
he'll be
in the
picked
first
next
round.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ooh,
that would
that's
be
interesting.
badass. Where would that be though? Late?
What are the Steelers? Are they early?
No, they have.
Are they in the 20s, late 20s?
Yeah, I just
Well,
had
they
it.
made the playoffs. They have to
24.
be. Yeah.
If this comes to pass, would this not have to be the most obscure way to accrue a team's first-round idea of who their pick was going to be? I know that's the wordiest damn way I could have ever
Do you
said
think that this will make its way to Daniel Jeremiah or
Yeah, and they probably
Like-
wouldn't credit us. And then I'd have to
source
hate
within the-
Daniel Jeremiah for the rest of my life.
like
a
Mel
source within the
Kiper?
Kings of Leon camp?
Yeah.
The Steelers' first three picks are 24, 55, 87 in the third round.
Yeah, I could see the 55 thing being. I mean, they
'Cause
just lost
all
Pouncey.
the
So
Ronnie talk kind of went away that we heard in February, March.
That's a great point, Bob. But the other thing that I saw yesterday, it was one of those like stupid ass NFL graphics. It was like, who's the most slept on player? I don't think anybody's necessarily sleeping on Ronnie, are they? Or should he be? Is he being slept on?
it's hard to sleep on a guy that played like 4 games last year.
If he would have played a full season, would he be a first round for sure? No doubt about it.
I don't know about no doubt about it, but his sack numbers would have been off the charts.
Right. Because
That
he was
makes
averaging basically a sack a game in the 6 games he played. So if you can put that to like 12 games or something.
I don't know. I mean, are you going to find teams that just look at pass rushers that don't pay as much attention to height and weight anymore? I mean, the Von Miller rule. Is that in effect for somebody? I don't know that he's Von Miller, though. He didn't have the
No.
career that Von Miller had.
No. I
He
think
doesn't have those traits.
I think
that
Ronnie's going to
stuff
have
that-
a good
Yeah.
NFL career. I don't know what that counts for.
Yeah, I think he's a really solid player. I do, but I mean, like 7-8 years, kind of like a little better than Frank Alexander would be a pretty good way to say it to me.
Frank probably would have had a better, like in today's time, because he just kept failing drug tests. I mean, seriously, that's what happened, isn't it? In Carolina,
he had
is that right?
Bad problem with that. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like he was like using hard drugs.
Was it was
was it PEDs for him?
Yes, PEDs. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, maybe stay away from that.
Okay, sorry, Ronnie. Didn't mean to throw you in that back. I didn't know that backstory. Apparently.
Okay, so I mean,
Trey Brown going to get drafted?
100%.
Yeah, I think Trey Norwood's the biggest question mark.
I'm working on.
I kind of want
those were the two.
I want Dylan Stoner to get drafted. I don't know where, but I've always just loved the guy. I didn't realize that he finished his career number 6 all time at OSU
He
in
might be
receptions.
one of those guys that's better off choosing where he wants to go, though.
Not getting drafted, then signing as a free agent.
Somebody that wants a slot.
Mm-hmm.
If you're 6th round or later, that's what I would rather be. Honestly, maybe even 5th, because you're not getting big bonus money. You're not. I mean, there's nothing that's really going to separate you, and you don't get to pick your situation.
The only problem with that, though, is aren't teams only allowed to bring in 5 guys as free agents right now? And the pool could be pretty small because of pandemic rules. I'm pretty sure the NFLPA
I don't know if
announced that
that's
last
changed
week.
since they realized the TV contract was going nuts like it was, or not.
Pretty sure you can only bring in 5 undrafted guys.
I wonder how many they used to bring in.
Like 30. Because they could bring them into those. They could bring them into those mini camps,
Yeah, you're right.
and then you just cut guys as you go.
But I mean, Norwood, Ely, like I said, I think we've been pretty open to that. I think everybody here thinks those guys would have been better served to come back. But at the same time, does anyone think they won't get a shot at a roster? I mean, they'll get a chance. Somebody will sign them. They're good players from a big program.
Yeah, I mean, Ely to me is intriguing. Just, I don't know.
I bet he gets picked. He's just so big and long, and somebody's going to be like, well, look at Orlando Brown. Look what he did. He big, same huge kind of guy.
That Oklahoma brand.
Yep. I mean, it's one of those moments where that helps you.
Speaking of NFL guys that were back in town on Saturday, it's crazy looking at like Mixon standing next to Kenneth Murray, who is a massive person, and Mixon's just about the same size.
I mean, Mixon was always a freak, man.
He was always a freak, but he's gotten like more pronounced, I guess.
He now looks like a comic book character. Yeah.
It's insane.
It's like your thighs aren't supposed to be that big compared to your waist.
It's ridiculous.
Okay, let's Josh, I mean, I know we've got some more camp stuff coming up.
I do have one spring game thing that we need to round back to at some point, whenever.
We'll do it now.
I mean, Eric Gray looks pretty damn good.
Oh, yeah, we didn't mention him.
We didn't mention the running back situation.
Well, that was the whole thing. It was like, the running back's going to do anything today, and then he breaks off that touchdown run, and you're like, oh, okay, that's all we really
welcome
need to see.
a Division I football moment for Jordan Mukes, who played pretty well in the spring game.
Led everyone in tackles.
Eric Gray, though,
you don't want that, though. You don't want to be the guy that led the spring game in tackles. That usually doesn't pan out.
That's a fact.
That's the same kind of Todd Hudson situation? Like, great you let him in rushing yardage, but I don't think that's going to hold up. But no, he's ahead of where I thought he would be, and good Lord, I might as well say it. I've already gotten like 5 DMs about Ethan Downs, so everybody's ready to tell me I'm wrong. I'm like, guys, we're. Oh my God! I don't know why it became I hated him.
Again.
I guess so.
Like, just no one wanted to listen. Like, and it's so funny because I heard somebody on the board was talking about, I guess Gabe in one of their pods had said something like, yeah, he's really big and strong, but he looks a little stiff. I'm like, this is what I've been saying. Like, I've said it 100 times, but everybody's like, I hadn't even heard about that. Dude, I need to be an ex-player, so somebody would actually listen. Wow. It's no shot at Gabe. Like,
I don't.
This
I didn't
is
take
exactly
it as that.
what I've said.
I've never heard you cry this much.
Because for some reason Ethan Downs really sticks in a couple of people's craws. One in particular, that might or might not have run businesses in Norman at some point or another. And
Illegal businesses?
No, perfectly legal businesses. Of a sporting variety.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
And it just seems to really bother them that I thought he was about the number 7 or 8 guy in a pretty good class in Oklahoma. And I because he came out early and is a big, strong guy with good speed, looked good, shouldn't shock anybody. He was, from a physical standpoint, Ethan Downs was as college ready as anybody OU signed. But there's going to come a point when all those other guys, like Nathan Rollins or NRK, I'm just going to save myself that trouble. When he starts to physically catch up, there's a level I think he can go to that Ethan Downs can't get to. Same for Kelvin Gilliam. And that's not to say that Ethan Downs won't be a good player. I think he will. I think he's one of the safer bets in the class to be a solid and steady player, which is what I said all along. I just don't think he's a superstar like some people had him rated. So that's, and like I said, anytime he does anything positive, I hear from 3 or 4 people about it.
White people?
I mean, it's something about the Aryan Brotherhood. I don't know what that was, but.
No, see, now you're putting him in there. That's not, no.
Right.
That was a poor choice right there.
It's not Ethan's. Ethan's never been anything but nice. Like,
no,
Ethan's,
I can just see
his dad never.
See a bunch of angry white guys from Weatherford,
Yeah.
like take exception to everything that you say or have said. Or
Well,
will
I mean,
say.
I'm not popular in Western Oklahoma, I guess.
Well, not after this podcast.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry if you're Aryan Brotherhood and I pissed you off.
Oh, maybe just stop.
Walk away from the mic.
It's making me uncomfortable.
Wow.
Okay.
But we have to go to Josh because recruiting. There's some news here
let's
about
talk.
to go down.
We're okay with
sure.
the running back situation, though? Eric Gray's the only guy back there right now?
I mean, they didn't let Kennedy Brooks do much other than
Yeah, he
just
just had those
get
2
on
carries.
the field.
Yeah.
Sounds like he might still be a little bit in a doghouse is kind of what I've come across. And the Mikey Henderson thing, definitely not giving up on it, but I think he can be better suited than being a running back. I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong. And it's unfair to take any type of bold proclamation from what we saw.
I am making no judgments based on running back.
Sure.
I made the worst judgment ever of any of my evaluations that I've ever made, which is Dom Whaley will never play a starting snap here.
It's fair. I just think that, and they're going to move Mikey Henderson all over the field. I get that. I just don't know if I want him being the guy that's taking carries. I don't know. Maybe we'll play this back after he rushes for 1,500 yards next year, and I'll say that I'm wrong. But it just seems weird. And
It's
Gabe
interesting that
hinted some stuff that was just kind of weird on the sidelines about basically him just getting his ass chewed by DeMarco.
Henderson?
Yes.
Interesting.
It made me think enough to is he unhappy? I don't know. Just kind of weird. Carry on. It's our fault anyways. They don't have running backs, so.
Is there something you want to tell us that you're not telling us?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Well, I know.
It just seemed
Mike
weird.
Hauk had to leave to go down to get the interview request, and he had no idea that Mikey was the one that got tackled for the safety, and that he ended up with negative yardage when it was all said and done.
Well, if it was a Thunder broadcast, we just wouldn't talk about it.
I really fight hard not to make any judgments at all. I was glad to see that Eric Gray had that nice run for the touchdown. But yeah, up to that point, I mean, I'm just used to all scrimmages. The only people that impress are the walk-ons.
Okay, how about for the running back room? We know they went into the portal with Mike Woods. Do they need to go into the portal to find another running back?
If there's somebody out there that would legitimately be able to come in and compete, I mean, is there? I guess we'll have to see. Yeah, sure.
That second wave of portal is going to start happening.
Oh, they'll definitely be keeping their eye on that.
Maybe you could go into the JUCO ranks. I truly don't know, and I don't know if a JUCO could be talked into coming just because of what's ahead of them. I mean, you're not taking carries away from Eric Gray. That's pretty obvious. Kenny Brooks, I still think, can play some football. Marcus Major looks good. I don't know if he necessarily is ever going to flourish.
I mean, I'd give the kid a chance. He looked really good against that crappy Florida team.
Flourish. Flowers.
I want it to be. I want you to
flourish. Flourish.
I want you to go with flourish. I want him to flourish.
That's a combination of words. It's the floor, meaning
ceiling, as the roof.
So recruiting.
Yeah, recruiting. I agree. It's time for recruiting talk.
And there's stuff to be talked about for sure. Coming off last weekend.
I guess the biggest question would just be, did everything go okay considering they couldn't do a whole lot, and they being the guys that were on campus?
Yeah. I thought from everybody I've talked to, things went very well. And talking to the players, it was kind of interesting, because I know even one of the guys on our board got some pictures with Gentry Williams. And I talked to Gentry about it, and he enjoyed himself, had a good time, kind of just talked about, and I didn't really put this on the board, but it's something that it's kind of hard to type it out and have it have any meaning. But when Gentry was talking, it felt like a fan talking about his team. Like, it was good to go see them play again, like that kind of thing. Like we would, like anybody on the board would kind of talk about, just I was excited to be inside, the stadium again and watching the game. That's kind of what it felt like. And it was just interesting to have that conversation. But I think Oklahoma is now in outstanding shape with Kip Lewis. A decision in the near future would not shock me at all. I've got some conversation about that in Woke that I think I think by this time next week we could have a couple of new commitments to talk about. And he's a guy that I think could be one of those guys. Luke Haas, that's one of the most interesting things to me about this was talking to Luke Haas from Bixby, a guy that was very excited about his OU offer. He'd never really been to a game day environment at Oklahoma. Like, he'd never done anything like that. Now, part of that is this, he's young, but also last year, it wasn't like normal where OU would have invited him for every home game and told him he could come and all those kind of things. So he just kind of had to do this on his own accord, but he loved it. I mean, he talked about liking the way OU was using their tight ends and how they moved them all around. And, they were in the slot, they were X, they were Z. I mean, they were just doing a lot of different things with them. And so, I mean, like I said, for no more than OU could do, OU did very well.
You mentioned Kip Lewis. If OU is able to get him to make a decision here shortly, does that wrap it up? You got Kobe, Kip. Is that enough for what Brian Odom's looking to do?
I don't think so. I think in OU's perfect world there would be another. My impression is that guy would be Ish Harris. Now, I can say it in his case a little more definitively. If Ish Harris is there, OU will take him. That is my understanding of the situation. He is one of those guys that I don't know if it'll go all the way to signing day, but for the foreseeable future, he has a spot. Now, there has been some renewal with Jalen Sneed and a couple of other guys as well, but I think Ish is the one guy that I would say if he wants to be part of it, it would be a three-man inside linebacker class with McKenzie, potentially Lewis, and Harris. If it's Lewis and McKenzie and somebody else, I don't know. OU would have to kind of weigh that. That might get into a conversation of, like we talk about every year come December, do we want this linebacker or this wide receiver, for example, or this defensive lineman? So you kind of have to see who would be there and what it might just be best available kind of situation. So that's not clear, but I definitely don't think it closes the book at all. OU absolutely would like to have another one if they can make the numbers work.
And Josh, you look at the spring game guys that came in. I think Kip Lewis stands out as the one that everything's changed the most. Who's maybe the second? Who's that one, the other guy that showed up that now things are trending in a lot different direction than perhaps what you first thought heading into last weekend?
That's a really good question, Bob. I might, and it's maybe it's just because I
think it's Chris McClellan, but I'm really not sure.
Yeah, Chris liked it a lot, and I think the reason I wouldn't go in that direction is Chris to me has always felt like if OU pushes him, they'll get him. Like that's what that situation feels like to me. And I know, when we talked to him a couple weeks ago at Rivals Camp, he was more of a, we'll see what happens. He was kind of playing it cool. But my feeling, and some of it is talking to him, just kind of he and I having conversations, was that OU is what he wanted to do all along. And if they would have offered him 6 months ago, he'd probably already be in the class. Now, I understand why they didn't, and I get that. Kind of the same thing we were just talking about at linebacker. There's a numbers game they're trying to work. But, when you say that's the school he originally wanted to be at, that's hard to overcome, especially in state. Those guys, they'll say it but it's really hard to pull the trigger to do something different. So I think that's a good one. But and like I said, it may just be because he is on my mind, but Luke is absolutely. I came away with a very different feeling on it just talking to him than I had previously. I just got this vibe that Oklahoma was, I don't want to say getting to where I just said McClellan was, but moving in that direction. Like just, OU might be really tough to beat here because I think he really likes what OU did. And he was very aware that they did all that without Austin Stogner really, being anywhere near his full self. And, so that there was probably more they had in their bag that they could have done if Austin was full go. So, like I said, I just really like where that is. And I think Oklahoma's going to push hard for him because if he could be the guy and he jumps in class early and you can lock down Malachi Nelson, Mekhi Lemon, you start putting that offensive class together and really could start, you do it that early, maybe you start to really put something crazy together, and then that whole 2023 class starts to do something special, with, guys like Brandon Ennis coming in this summer as well.
Okay, so we all know that the dead period is going to come to an end here, and I know there's been a lot of talk from you guys about the barbecue and the plans, and just kind of, can you map out just officially, what OU is looking at right here? Will there be, some individual visits before that, or are they just going to save up everything and just have the barbecue and just blow that out?
Now, what do you mean with individual visits? Are they going to, are you talking about stuff like beforehand, like maybe a couple of guys coming in
like
before that and being
June 2nd? Are they bringing in?
Like, they bring in just guys on official visits?
12:01 a.m. on June 1st. Welcome in.
Come on in.
We got lights out here for you.
I think they are going to have some different guys in there. Like I know, and this is something now that I'm saying it, I'm like, I got to put this up on the board. I expect Derek Brown, the Texas High linebacker that was Clayton Smith's teammate last year, he's not going to be able to come in for June 18th because when OU moved that from June 11th to June 18th, he had planned to be at June 11th for the barbecue. He can't come to June 18th because he'd already scheduled an official with Texas A&M. So he's going to be at A&M. But I think he's going to come in earlier that week on like the 14th. And I'm not sure yet if that's going to be official or unofficial, but that's kind of, and that, I know a chunk of that has to be related to the fact that that's a Jamar Cain guy, and Jamar Cain has like 6 guys that are very possible barbecue visitors, and as good as we all think Cain is, there's only so much time you have to make these guys feel like they're important, and you don't want to get stretched so thin that, that half the guys come away like, well, OU's not that interested, or OU didn't show me the love, or whatever. So I think the Brown decision is more like, hey, you can come in, it'll be one-on-one time, we get to really, hang out, have a better feel for each other, because like everybody knows, this will be Jamar Cain and Derek Brown's first chance to meet each other. And they are, both very serious about one another. So that is that'll be kind of interesting to watch. But yeah, there'll be some visits beforehand, but I would be surprised, especially of an official variety, if there's more than 3 or 4.
And just in terms of the barbecue, just for kind of people that I know, Josh, that you'd have to be living under a rock if you didn't know exactly what the barbecue was. I'm not trying to get you to say that, but just, I mean,
good.
What do you think about?
They meet on Owen Field. There's water balloons.
All right, stop it. No, but how big in comparison to years past will this one be, or do you expect this to be?
This looks massive because, and Bob could touch on this because he's always better with kind of like looking back and remembering, okay, this guy was here that year, this guy was there. I live so day to day. He just exceeds me in that role. There's no doubt. But what I'm not seeing this year is OU bringing in a bunch of guys that they like, but they're not crazy about. The guys that are on the list are dudes. I mean, especially the official list. Like, there are a few guys that I think they're, they like and they will absolutely take, but maybe they're not just set on yet. When I look at the unofficial list, Amari Abor, take all day. Brandon Ennis, the number 4 overall player in the country in his class. Makai Lemon, a top 75 player in his class in the whole country. Malachi Nelson, the number 1 quarterback in the country in 2023. Harold Perkins, maybe the best linebacker, I don't know, I guess you could say in this time zone. I mean, very, very elite player in the 2022 class that I think OU has got to make him a big deal on that barbecue weekend to really have a chance at all. The one I confirmed this week is Jordan Renaud, the defensive lineman from Louisville, who is also in that 2023 class, is the number 15 overall player in the country. Another guy that Kane, like I mentioned, is bringing in. Jaden Scarlett, big-time defensive lineman from Dallas. He probably might fall into a little bit more of that conversation I'm having of a guy that they like, but maybe they're not quite ready to push for. I think Scarlett's a guy they want to see in person because, like we talked about at Rivals Camp, he's a smaller guy. He's not the Alex Grinch mold of a big, long, speed athlete. He's plenty quick and fast, but he's not big and long. So I'm going to be interested to see how they kind of handle him once they see him. I want to see if they just like his tape so much they just don't care. And the last one is Trayon Webb, the big-time DB from Florida that's another top 50 guy in the country in his class. I mean, these are elite guys that could go just about anywhere in the country, and Oklahoma's going to have them all on campus for one weekend. And, that's when you start to see these big things happen. Now, I don't expect a whole mess of commitments to come out of this. Maybe I'll feel differently when that time comes. But I think it's more about setting up what could happen forward. Like, you get Malachi Nelson and Makai Lemon there. Nelson pulls a trigger sometime this summer, early next season, like he's talking about. Then Lemon gets involved because they've said they want to play together. And then, you've got Malachi Nelson talking to Brandon Dennis, the number 2 player and the number 4 player overall in the country, one trying to recruit the other to come catch passes from him. I mean, that's not a hard thing to envision, a kind of a snowball effect.
And it does seem like OU will also try to make it as special as possible. I think having it in middle of June might allow them to bring in some of their former guys. I know they've been throwing out like Kenneth Murray and Baker. I don't know if all those guys will actually end up back in Norman, but they want a strong alumni presence. That's probably easier to do in the middle of June than in late July when guys are really starting to get ready with their own seasons.
You guys would actually be the best ones to ask about this because you guys have talked to a lot of these guys more recently. Who would be like the 3, if you could have just any 3, like who are the guys that would have to be there? Like, Baker's obvious to me. Orlando makes a lot of sense.
Right.
But I mean, who are guys that
3
that
former
you feel
players
like would
to
be,
come to the barbecue?
Yeah, that would really sell it.
Oh, I mean, I think that, Kyler has to be in there somewhere, is like not as social as maybe a Baker would be. I think, there's more guys that probably would
get Kenneth
draw
Murray
themselves.
to drive people around in his Porsche.
I think Murray would be a good job, and I think that, I'm sure that he somehow has talked to Kip Lewis just as far as the type of coach Brian Odom is.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody that could sell the linebacker position more than a Kenneth Murray could.
I would say those are the three: Baker, Murray, and Brown. Those would be my three.
Yeah.
What about CD, though?
With the wide receiver position?
Yeah.
I don't think he would necessarily be bad.
I mean, just because
I didn't even realize he was back in
Cowboy.
town this weekend, but he was there.
He's
he was
playing
with Joe.
for the Cowboys. All those kids from Texas would probably love to, see him. Of course, DeMarco kind of does that too a little bit.
I'm going to go run hide after I say this, but bring back Buki just for the weekend.
You just can't let him go, can you?
That'd be his greatest.
Even though he's gone, he's still with us.
Somebody needs to pass the sledgehammer down.
Gone but not forgotten.
Absolutely.
Jerry.
I don't know. I think that'd probably be like Baker, Kyler, Orlando would definitely be a good three. Throw Kenneth Murray maybe in there.
And that weekend, that's sandwiched between camp events, too. It's going to be a busy – where we're used to kind of chilling in June, that is not going to be the case this year. You got a OU camp on the 12th and 26th, and the barbecue on 19th.
We sat around enough.
Yeah, it's way better than last summer.
Sure.
Last summer, I was like, I don't know what to do with my hands. I drove to Durant, Oklahoma to watch a camp. Something I never thought I would do in a million years. But it was a good camp. Like, no.
Yeah, it was a great camp.
Yeah, I mean, there was plenty there to see, but that's not a sentence I ever thought I would utter in the middle of July, because Durant, Oklahoma in July is hot as hell.
Yes, there is no shade on that field out there.
No shade. Yep.
We went to have lunch like at one of the breaks, and I swear the lady just like kept bringing us water. The three of us are just crushing it.
Yes, I remember that.
Would that have been your first Talon Shetron meetup?
We had seen him before. I mean, we went to some of his games as a sophomore.
That was the first time since he was ranked the number one receiver by ESPN like a couple weeks earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That just seems like it was a lifetime ago. Seems like it was like 2 years ago.
Absolutely, it does.
The first time I saw Talon was the end of his freshman year at that Rivals camp in New Orleans that he came down to.
Oh, that's right.
When he was like this skinny kid. He drops the first ball, and I was like, "Oh God, this is going to go bad."
Then he just put on a show, didn't he?
Yeah. From then on, he just caught everything and was beating I mean, at one point he worked over some kid that ended up signing with Mississippi State that year. I mean, kid was a senior. He was a good player out of Louisiana, and Shetron just turned him sideways. So you knew then. You're like, okay, that dude's going to be real.
It was funny. When Presley committed, I had to do the standard out of the loop, helping people understand that there's a guy named Luther Burden and a guy named Talon Shetron. That why OU wasn't after Presley.
Raleek Brown.
Yeah,
I think
Raleek Brown
is your Braylon Presley comparison. In terms
but
of
it's just one of
do.
those things. It's like, how come you didn't go after? Well, let me explain it to you. They got the number one receiver in the country, the number 30 player in the country, and
just kind of a bad time to be really good, isn't it?
And look, I think he could be a great college football player. I mean, hell, he could be the next Tyler Lockett. I mean,
you can't get everybody.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
you
just-
literally can't get everybody. And I still think, is it crazy to say that Brennan is probably the better prospect as far as
Just 'cause
NFL
of
goes?
size?
Yeah. And I guess
a
that's
little bigger.
unfair because I've never really seen Presley just real up close.
See, Kerry and Eddie, I think you're right. I think Brennan's the better prospect, and Brennan's going to be a really good player. But when Braylon committed, see, I got it from the other side because I was like, Presley and Stillwater, those are Big 12 problems. And somebody's like, you ever heard of Raleek Brown? No, I don't know what I do for a living. I literally just got off the road watching that kid play, but you tell me more about him if you could, thanks. And you're just like, guys, just because OU was right in not taking Presley so that they could get Brown, doesn't mean that Presley's not really fucking good. He's really, really good.
Yeah.
But it just OU's wide receiver recruiting, guys. I can't think of many positions in college football right now that are recruiting like Oklahoma is recruiting at wide receiver. They are just loading dudes. And
it'd just be like Alabama at linebacker or something.
Yes. I mean, like that's the level you're talking about. It is insane what Cale Gundy and Dennis Simmons are doing at wide receiver right now, because I was talking to them about I was, just talking to some people about the wide receiver room and how, like, they're kind of making decisions for 2023 already. And it was like, yeah, this guy that is at a school that OU has recruited the hell out of and is a good player, already has some Power 5 offers, are like, yeah, he's not going to make it for us. And I was like, well, really? You guys? And they're like, we're going to get 3 or 4, like Rivals 100 type dudes. We can't, like Eddie just said, we can't take everyone. And like so
you already feel confident with Jalen Hale, Lemon, and Ennis.
Yes.
And that's like 3 of the top 40 in the entire country.
And Jonte Cook, the kid at DeSoto who grew up an OU fan.
Yeah.
Like,
there you go.
It's not a reach at all to think that that's OU's 2023 wide receiver class, and it's almost set. Like, it's not, don't get me wrong, one of those guys will end up somewhere else. Something will happen. It will change. It just will. But if you already know quite possibly 75% of your wide receiver class a year and a half before they sign, and they're all just freaks, yeah. What do you do? Like, you just can't take everybody, and it's going to leave some really good players along the way for places like Oklahoma State. I mean, it's a great problem for Oklahoma to have, but at the same time, you know, people are going to get pissy about it.
And it's not the same as like a George Kittle going to Iowa and becoming, a superstar. It is more like the Charlie Kohler, where you'd love to be able to have that kid and see if you could develop him, but you have better players that you are committed to already. I mean, that was the Grant Calcaterra year, right? I believe.
Yep. And I thought the same thing Saturday with Jaden Bray. I love that kid at Norman.
Yeah.
They're just, you get Mario Williams and Cody Jackson, Jaleel Farouk. That stuff's going to happen.
We saw Jaden Bray playing Santa Fe against Shetron back in the playoffs, and I mean, he had a really good game.
Guys, I mean, Mario Williams may start this year with all the wide receivers we've talked about.
I know.
Like, if that doesn't put it into perspective what OU's doing at receiver,
they talk about Mario Williams like he's just.
He might not only start this year, he might have the most receptions on the team. Like, he might out Marvin Mims this year.
Like, I'm not saying that's crazy. I just, like, sometimes I feel like we haven't, and I know that we have, because I think we look at last season and what Marvin Mims did, and we go, well, the wide receiver position just really wasn't that good, when in reality, I guess that's true to an extent.
But he made it better than we give it credit for.
But Marvin Mims was unbelievable at times. And I think that's why the board and everybody else is like, guy needed to be on the field more.
Guys, I brought this up. I brought this up in board chat last week. What does that offense? I don't think I asked it in the pod. What does that offense look like without Marvin Mims? If they don't get him to flip from Stanford last year, there are some ugly periods of football without Marvin Mims with some big plays over the top last year.
That entire TCU game was just Spencer Rattler throwing it deep, and it just happened that Marvin Mims made enough plays for them to win convincingly. Because there wasn't much else going on for the offense in that game.
No.
Yeah, they threw deep. McGowan, Weiss, Mims. Yeah, that's all he did. He just chunked it up there.
Because once Stogner went down, he lost his security blanket. Rattler did. And then they were saved when Ramondre came back, because they finally gave him a real running game that opened everything else up. But, they... Look, I'm not trying to devalue Mims or say he's a flash in the pan.
No, I think it says more about what they think Mario Williams could be.
I just think it's ridiculous how good this kid is.
And I mean, for that matter, I thought he didn't. I don't remember him catching a ball on Saturday, but just physically, I mean, Cody Jackson looks the part.
He looks better than I thought he would, yeah.
He's a little bit thicker than I was imagining.
Yeah, me too. Because all we saw of him was high school pictures. We haven't seen him since he's been here.
I just can't get out of my head. He looks, and I think it's because he went to the same school, but he looks like CD. He just reminds me of CD. I think it has something to do with the braids hanging out of the back of the helmet, too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right. Anything else you want to hit? I know we've had a little basketball development here or there.
I mean, the headline of Saturday was obviously the spring game, but it's some pretty big news as far as the transfer portal goes.
That was, and we're at Wednesday now. I am a little miffed that there has been nothing since then, which has sort of made me reevaluate maybe what I first thought. So let's go back. Josh O'Garo goes into the transfer portal Saturday evening, so that where OU now has 2 open scholarships left. And so I'm thinking, okay, it's 2 or 3 between Jackson Robinson, Trey Alexander, and Bryce Thompson. Bryce Thompson still holds all the cards, but now I thought that meant they can take Jackson Robinson and then let Bryce decide what he wants, and if they don't get him, there's still another guy that can get in the portal going down the road. But here we are 4 days removed, still 2 open spots left. I think Bryce will know this week. The question is, does Bryce announce this week? And that I don't know. But from all the people I've talked to, and what Mike Boynton tweeted last night was not about Bryce Thompson. That I can confirm. It's about another transfer. I'm not going to throw that out there in case that kid hasn't announced yet.
Oh, but he's going to OSU.
So Bryce Thompson's still in play. Still waiting for Thompson to tell Sooners and Porter Moser no. As of Wednesday afternoon, that has not happened just yet.
Is it crazy to say that, and we could play this hypothetical game, but if they could just get 2 of the 3, I don't care who they are, is it a better roster going into year 1 of Porter Moser than they would have had returning with a Long Kruger? And who knows how everything unfolds.
By the way, nice job turning pro, Kirkweth.
Where did he end up? Oh, Marquette.
Marquette with Shaka.
Going to Shaka. That's insane. I think Shaka Smart's going to be Shaka Smart again at Marquette.
Like Texas just wasn't a good fit.
Man, he saw what Kerr did in the second half in Norman. He said, I gotta get that guy.
No doubt about it.
Shit, I mean, Kerr was the only thing that gave him a chance against Gonzaga.
Yeah.
When he was on the floor, they were pretty decent.
I think maybe the realization comes in. I don't know how much money Kerr could have made initially going overseas, as opposed to maybe getting that stock up even more with a year Marquette. I still don't think he's an NBA type of player, but he can do more for his future earnings with 1 more year at the college level than just bolting now.
Yeah, and I bet he had no idea about how COVID was affecting, salaries and things like that either. Which I don't know either, but I'm just assuming that it probably affected it a little bit.
Yeah, it's, since we last recorded, you had Davion Harmon go Oregon with Crutchfield and now Kirkweth at Marquette. So just like football, seeing a lot of those basketball players, nice landing spots from the transfer portal.
Yeah, you had that Oregon thing tagged from the moment that he entered his name, or as soon as it made sense that Crutchfield was going to head up to Eugene. I good luck to him. Probably not my favorite former player in the entire world, but good luck.
Curious to see if they let him be the type of point guard that he says he needs to be to show scouts. But, yeah, I mean, Crutch gets the Ducks job. A couple days later goes into the portal. Then you have his dad just flat out say, that Davion wanted to decommit when Crutch left for Arkansas. That Davion wanted to back out of his Sooners pledge when Crutch left. Just a lot of easy dots to connect there. And so that made a lot of sense. So now we're just 2 open scholarships and 1 more assistant coach spot that I think when we record next week, I think all 3 of those things will be checked off.
Be interesting to see which way they go with that 3rd assistant.
Yeah.
Because they kind of
really
answered I don't know. I guess you look at what we were kind of used to with how Kruger put together his staff, and it was pretty obvious that he had like a defensive guy, had a big guy, and then obviously had like a recruiting guy almost. How would you say that Moser's put his staff together? Because it feels like it's pretty dominated as far as the recruiting goes.
Yes, maybe that's because we've never seen these guys work out of practice yet, but no doubt Emmanuel Dildy and KT Turner are going to be monsters when it comes to recruiting. You're already starting to see it now. You're starting to see those guys get comfortable enough they're making 22 and 23 offers during the course of this week, and they're still maintaining contact with the transfers that are out there. I just think as soon as Bryce Thompson makes his call, things happen rather quickly, and OU fans will be pretty pleased about the end product.
All right, this was a supersized edition.
It really was. But we had a lot to talk about.
Unofficial 40.
There's a ton to talk about.
I'm looking forward to the draft. Looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. Hopefully it plays out well for a lot of you guys that we covered throughout your careers. And looking forward to the boys playing tomorrow night as well.
Is Zaven Collins the biggest surprise that you've ever seen as far as a guy that just went from basically nobody knew about in Oklahoma to he's going to be a first-round draft pick?
At least here, at least within the state. I don't know if there's other stories like that nationwide.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure
places,
that there are.
The hominy quarterback pictures, when you see those in retrospect,
insane.
It's just fun.
I mean, the closest thing to it in recent years would have been Ronnell Lewis.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that didn't turn out so well. He certainly wasn't a first-round pick.
Not quite.
Collins is what we thought Lewis was going to be.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Kind of edge rusher, could do a lot, move him around, do a bunch of different stuff, and he couldn't do any of them, much less all of them that Collins did.
I don't know. Could you say that the Justin Blackman is a close to similar story?
Yeah, I mean, probably he got a little more run in recruiting than Collins did. I mean, Collins was unknown. I mean, I even, like I said, for somebody like me that follows
Yeah, I mean,
stuff,
even OU was looking at Blaylock and stuff and aware of him and everything.
But, and went to a good program. Collins, Tulsa has just not had a guy like this. I mean, they've had some good players, but they were always quarterbacks or receivers that were an inch too short or didn't have a big arm, or there was always some knock on. Zaven Collins is just a great football player.
Where is he? How high could he go? What's the highest he could go that you've seen?
Zaven?
Yeah.
16 was the highest that I saw.
Okay.
I've seen a bunch of people saying, though, if, and this is actually out of Pittsburgh, if he's on the board at 24, the Steelers really like him. I mean, so you go the Cardinals at 16 or the Steelers at 24. Pretty, not only a good check, but pretty good teams, I think.
The one that makes a ton of sense to me is the Patriots at 15. Because he is, they love those guys that are just jack of all trades, move them around, do a bunch of different stuff, and, can play edge, can play middle. Like, he is that dude to a T. And just, and the quarterback background, I mean, he just feels like a Bill Belichick guy.
You don't think that Belichick would take Justin Fields if he's sitting there at 15?
Oh, he'd be crazy if he didn't. But I
somehow don't think he's fallen.
Man.
Yeah, Chris Sims,
exactly.
what are you doing, man? You doing?
I guess, yeah. We need to spend less time on Chris Sims. That's already too much.
We've had everything in this pod, it seems. Yeah, we even got Chris Sims in there. All right, I think that's going to do it. A good place for us to end. We will be back again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40.
Unless Kyle Shanahan's right and we all die on Sunday.
From SoonerScoop.com.